What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I have for you guys is a video that I've been saying I was going to make for a while, and I finally sat down and made it. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to be completely honest with you guys. I thought this was going to be pretty easy. It was a little harder. So as you guys can see, we're talking about the map today. Obviously, I would love your guys' opinions in the comments down below. If you guys have questions, please let me know. I'm very curious if there's anything that I don't explain well enough. I don't know how long this video is going to be. If I don't explain anything well enough, let me know. If you guys have, comments, do you think this is good or bad, etc., etc., let me know. I'm really curious what you guys think and whether or not you agree with me. Because obviously this is fairly opinionated, right? A lot of this is going to be what I think would make the map better. Whether or not you agree, up in the air. So, just for comparison, this is the current pred map. This is the best way I have to lay this out, just so you guys know. I'm on Pixlr right now. This is what I use to make thumbnails. This is just the easiest way to get one-to-one comparisons. I don't know exactly what the video will look like post-editing, but this is what it's going to look like right now. And yeah, so this is the current pred map. I have these lined up so that you guys can see size comparison. But this is the current pred map. The previous pred map, this is the pred map from 3 years ago, I believe. This is from the July 2020 alpha playtest, for those of you that remember those days. And the quality is terrible, so I apologize. But this is just a screenshot from one of my old videos. This is the map. It doesn't look like it is because this is a screenshot of the mini-map, of course. This map is much bigger. The map itself, I think, was generally speaking better. One of those reasons being how much bigger it was. The lane, like specifically the mid lane, much longer. The mid lane layout, I didn't like as much. It was very, very vertically based, which I didn't like as much. Same river buffs. The pit layouts were better. More entrances to the pits. I really like that. And then there is a red and a green, red and a blue buff here. Sorry. They just aren't color-coded. I promise they're there. There is an extra camp over here as well. Don't really know what that's for. No green, no gold buffs, but this is the old map, just to give you guys a refresher. And then this is my pred map. So, as you guys can see, this is the size comparison. Obviously, this is the normal map on top, the current map. My map is below it so that you can see the size comparison. I pulled out the duo lanes and the solo lanes out a little bit, but core to core, it is the exact same length. I did not change core to core. So, with that said, let's look at my map. The first thing you'll notice again is that I pulled the side lanes out. I don't think core to core, I don't think that length is an issue. I really don't. I think that the main issue is that the jungle is very cramped. There's not enough space. Rotations are too easy, specifically for mid laners. So I just widened it a little bit, and I thought that worked pretty well. The other thing you'll notice first is probably that the gold and green buffs are on the inside of the map now. They are in the jungle. This camp on the outside, I'm trying to think of how to describe this. It's kind of like, the big minion in 2 camp. It's kind of like that, except I would give it like a little bit more gold, a little bit more XP. Not a lot, but then put it on, like the same 2-minute timer of gold buff, that kind of thing. And that's just for solo laners and duo lanes to fight over. That's fine. Gold and green buffs are the only things on the map that I reworked how they work. So I think that the best way to do this, because currently my issue with gold and green buffs is that they are instant value and you don't have to do anything to maximize that value. Red and blue buff, excuse me, I'm mixing up my buffs right now. Red and blue buff do not give you instantaneous value. They give you golden XP, sure. Everything gives you golden XP. They don't give you any value unless you do something with them, right? If you get blue buff and use 0 abilities, you get nothing out of it. If you get red buff and you hit 0 and you auto attack 0 things, you get nothing out of it, right? So I wanted to make these different, and I actually found what I think is a pretty interesting way to do this. So these are on the inside of the map. The reason for this is to make junglers have something to do early game. This is to let junglers contest things with their team early. You can get early 3v3s, 4v4s on this gold buff so that your team can get it, right? If your mid lane comes over your junglers here, that's kind of cool. You can get 2v2s, 3v3s on green buff. That's really cool. Do you go to gold buff? Do you go to green buff if they spawn at the same time? Which one do you help your team contest, right? Do you have a pressure solo laner who needs this green buff? Do you have a farming carry who needs the gold buff? Right? It adds a level of complexity, in my opinion. Again, whether or not you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I would have these work differently. And the way that I would have these work is gold buff and green buff both would drop to the person that kills them However, they would act the way that Dunk Prime works. All right. This being that you can drop the buff. You can recall to drop the buff and someone else can pick it up. If an enemy picks it up, bummer, right? L bozo. You still get the gold and the XP for killing the camp, obviously, but you don't get the buff itself. Obviously, the first time the person who kills this, the buff goes to them. But then, like, if you go to press the recall button to drop the buff and an invisible Kalari picks it up, then they would get it, right? They would get the buff. The way that this would work is, so gold buff and green buff, I believe they're 2-minute respawns for like the next minute or maybe 90 seconds. This would be, gold buff would give you 1.5 times gold on minion kills. So on lane minion kills specifically, you wouldn't be able to abuse this in the jungle, but on lane minion kills, you would get 1.5 times gold. So what this would do is make you have to still last hit. You still have to do something to get this buff and to use it properly. But if you do, you can potentially get more value out of it than you can out of the current gold buff, which I think is cool. I think that, again, it's something you have to do. And if you're playing a low pressure duo lane and you and your jungler contests the gold buff and gets it, even if you give that to your carry, right, are they going to be able to last hit and get a crazy amount of value out of it? Probably not, right? If you have like Sparrow Narbash versus, you know, Richter Revenant, something that's not a duo lane where you're really going to win a fight, if they can like freeze the wave on you, they just kind of outplayed your gold buff, right? I think that's cool. It gives some counterplay to it. But if you're able to leverage this gold buff, then you can potentially get more value out of it. Green buff would be similar. It would drop the same way. It would be, go to the person who gets it. They can drop it for the rest of their team. I think that's a fairly cool mechanic. I think dropping it on the ground like Smite would be like potentially better, but I know that most of you guys in the Paragon predecessor community hate that. So I think if you gave it the old Orb Prime mechanic where you can recall to drop the buff, I think that's fine. And this would be, in my opinion, this would be health regen and mana, and it would be very low numbers of health regen and mana, but then it would give you health. It would refund health and mana when you hit minions or when you kill minions. So this would maybe be like, 3 health a second and 1 mana a second. But then every last hit you get, you gain, you regen 20 health and 10 mana, right? So again, if you're able to kill minions, then you will be able to outpoke people / live through poke. If you're playing against a Grux and you have green buff and he starts swinging on you, but you get to clear the minion wave, then now you have now you just healed a bunch of the poke that he did to you, right? It would be this kind of equalizer. But on the other hand, if Grux got this green buff and you're playing literally anyone, you're probably not going to be able to kill him because as soon as he gets through his minion wave, you're not going to be able to outpoke him or kill him, right? It's this kind of dynamic of, do I fight them while they have green buff? And again, maybe you even make the cooldowns on these longer. Maybe you make them last for a minute and it's a 3-minute cooldown on the buff or something like that, right? That's just kind of my idea. You can let me know if that's dumb or not in the comments down below. The main other things here are the pits. They are center of the map and they have 2 entrances. This is, I think, the way that it needs to be, in my opinion. I do not like the pits being offset on the map. I think they need to be dead center. It needs to be even for both sides. These light gray areas are areas where verticality will get you over them. So these would function the exact same way as the current cutouts in the pits in Fangtooth and Prime Pit, where, you can Fang Mao dash or Decker jump over them, right? That kind of thing. But you need verticality to be able, you can blink over them, right? It's the same thing with these little camps down here. So this is a camp that would be like on a platform. Not like a floating platform, but just a higher platform, right? So this would be like this would be ramp leading up to this. This would be like a slope. And then on the other side from here, it'd be stairs going up. Blue, again, are the camps, is this a 4 camp or a 3 camp? Does that matter? I'm not even going to get into that. This is a camp, this is a camp, this is blue buff, right? Blue buff, red buff work the same way. Purple lines are fog walls, if that wasn't clear. The red buff here, again, I would put it on the same platform it's on now. This is just my way to illustrate that. Again, XP camp. Gray buff also on a platform. I just think this is interesting because then you can, if you have a jungler with mobility, you can, Kalari double jump over this, get on gray buff or get on gold buff and steal it, that kind of thing. I think that's kind of cool. And another thing to just note, the map is completely symmetrical. Excuse me. That was the word I was looking for. It is now notably, I can already hear you guys typing comments. Stop typing right now. Notably, it is not symmetrical left to right. That part does not matter. What matters is that if I were to take this and rotate it 180 degrees, the map is the same. It is the same layout, right? Red buff, this camp, gold buff, Fangtooth are always on the duo lane side. Blue buff, this camp, green buff, right, are always on the solo lane side. Now, obviously, again, the red buff is on the left side. Yeah, but it's on the duo lane side still, right? So I made it the exact same for both sides. No matter what side you spawn on, the map will be the same. You'll always go towards duo lane to clear your red. This is another big issue I currently have with the map, because depending on what side you start on, you have different opportunities for cringe ganks, and I think that evening that out is a good thing in the long run, because now you can have both junglers start on their red buffs, and if both junglers decide to go red to duo lane for a gank, now you have a 3v3 here instead of a weird 3v2, and that's cool. Or if both junglers start red and one goes for this cringe gank, right? Now you know that you can go to his blue, versus in the other starts, one jungler gets to start on solo side, one jungler gets to start on duo side. I just don't really like that. So yeah, that's how we're gonna do it. The mid lane looks really wonky. To be honest, it's the only part of the map that I'm not super happy with. Because Predecessor mid lane is such a zigzag, it makes it very, very hard to make a symmetrical map. And so what I did is I actually just flipped the other duo lane, or the other mid lane, so that they end up coming down at like this kind of bit of an angle that is really kind of wacky, but also I kind of like it. I think it's actually kind of cool. River buffs, I moved over the river buffs. They're farther away from mid lane. And the reason for this is the other thing that I would do with river buffs is I would make them have more HP. I would give them like 500 HP instead of 150. Because I think it makes it more interesting to try and secure that buff. It makes junglers more impactful to try and secure that buff for their mid laners. I think that is always a good thing. Getting junglers active, I think, is a good thing. AFK farming junglers is not fun. No one likes that. It's boring. And so getting them active is a good thing. Do you smite a river buff to secure it, even though your mid laner won't get it because you smited it as the jungler? Is that worth it to take it away from their mid laner? How much mana do you save so that you can use abilities on river buffs versus shoving the wave and being able to auto attack river buffs, right? Like, how does that play out? It'd be interesting. And again, maybe that's a bad idea. That could legitimately be a bad idea, right? I'm not positive, so let me know. I'm curious what you guys think. As for fog walls, the only fog wall that I didn't know whether or not to place was on green buff. I wanted to put a fog wall right here, but I wasn't sure if that was a good idea or not. Other than that, there are the same amount of jungle entrances in the lanes. There's still 3 entrances to solo lane, as there are now. One of them is through the green buff. They are still... all this does is it actually makes them more wardable, which the way wards work, especially early game, I think making it more wardable is very good, because if you ward like right here, that's like cuts off a lot of jungle entrances, right? And so with one ward in solo lane, you can get a lot more value. In duo lane, very similar concept. I actually made more entrances technically into the duo lane, with being 4 instead of 3, but they are more wardable. If you drop a ward on this gold buff, you cover 2 entrances, right? If you drop a ward, right up here, you're really only covering 1. But if you drop it on the edge of their gold buff, right, you can potentially ward 2, but it could get skirted around and you could still get ganked, right? It opens up more kind of thought experiments on where you want to ward, especially in duo lane. Again, you have 2 wards available. Where do you place them? The other thing that I thought was very, very impactful that current pred map doesn't do is that there are no clear line of sights from fog walls to fog walls, right? Obviously, looking across a lane is different, but you can no longer walk through mid fog wall and be able to stare at dual lane fog wall. There's obstructions all the way across. You cannot see it, which is, again, how it should be. I did not, with this map, I would have rather made a map utilizing Fog of War, but Pred seems really, really tied to their fog walls, so I figured I would make the map utilizing fog walls to what I feel could be a higher extent, which is what I tried to do. Also notable that even though the pits are open, the pits have 2 openings, you cannot see the openings, you cannot see the buff from other camps, which I think is very big. So you cannot be a jungler clearing red buff and see whether or not they're on Fangtooth. It is obscured. You do still have to walk in, but again, notably, there are more entrances to walk into this, right? It's not a single choke point like the current stairs that are in front of the Fangtooth and Prime pits, right? You can walk in right here, or you can walk in right here, or you can walk in right here, or you can double jump over the wall from mid, or, you know, right, you can go up this platform. I picture this platform on Gold Buff, I picture being connected to this little dip in the Fangtooth wall. So you could go up these stairs and walk into the Fangtooth pit from this higher slope. You just couldn't get back out. That's the way I picture this working, just so you know. But it would take a lot more time to walk over here and walk up here than it would be to walk straight in, right? So do you have the extra time that you can use to get that kind of flanking route? Who knows, right? You can't see the HP, that kind of thing, right? So I think that that's very notable. That's the same on both sides of the map on Prime Pit as well. You cannot see it while you're clearing buffs. That's, again, I think that is a good thing. I don't think you should just be able to watch the objective get done while you're on a buff. I think that that's kind of cheesy. It lets you just kind of sit there and time it and wait and play very passive. And this way you have to play a little more aggressive. You have to be willing to step up, put your body in danger a little bit, maybe be grouped with your team before you can actually walk in. So this is the map that I have for Predecessor. I want to know what you guys think. I will see if I can put this somewhere. I will definitely post it in my Discord if you guys want to be able to like copy it and edit it at all, and or look at it closer on your guys' own time, that kind of thing. I will definitely have a link to find a way to get this image. I don't know exactly what that'll look like, but there will be a link in the description if you guys want the image. Other than that, guys, that's all I've got for you guys. So I know this was a very kind of low budget map video of me looking at this on my editing software. I had other plans for this, but realistically, this was just the best way for me to talk about it and show it off and make all my points clear. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have questions. I'm very curious what you guys think of the map. I'm really, really curious. So let me know down below what you guys think. But that's all I've got for you guys today. So as always, guys, I've been Pinzo. This video's donezo. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.